welcome to Jerry's Facebook Live. I'm here at the Raleigh Jerry's Artarama in the frame shop with our Director of Retail Framing, Sam Buie, who's going to be teaching us some framing cheats and tricks and all sorts of fun stuff. Today's episode, for those of you playing along at home, to put in the search bar is JL32. It's going to show the different frames and some of the supplies that Sam's going to be using today, and I'm sure that Amanda looks very busy and typing fast and furiously, so I'm sure she's probably putting a link to those supplies right now as we speak. They're both nodding very vigorously. So
you guys will need this stuff.
Yeah, we'll need it. Oh, they will.
Yeah.
So I think that we're pretty much like set and ready to go, and apparently loaded for bear, because we've got all the framing accoutrements that one might need for basic framing.
This is basic, nothing too technical.
So I think we're gonna turn it over.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we start with the canvas? How's that? Canvas in the float frame. All right. And the one thing I didn't grab was the drill. I mean, the drill right
yes,
there.
and I think you may have to talk louder because it's kind of not very. It's more open in here.
Oh, okay.
Than our
sorry.
studio. So
I was just asking for a drill, so no biggie right now. Thank you. Proper head on it. Okay, so this is a fine piece of art. Did you do this, Amy?
No, I did not.
You did not? No. Okay.
It was from
It's
Olivia.
still a fine piece of art.
Who used to be at Burning Oaks.
Yep.
Hi, Olivia.
Still a great Olivia. Hey, thank you. Very nice piece. This is one of our illusion float frames. This is the 3/4 depth. This is a 3/4 canvas. So basically the canvas sits in on this bottom rail. So if you see right here, you see that?
Katie, can you zoom in to see that?
There's like a little step on the float frames, and that bottom step is actually where the art rests. So when I put it in there, it's not secure yet, but that's basically what it looks like. And we put these in with offset clips. That little area left over is called a reveal, and that's what makes float frames unusual. For any canvases that you put in a float frame, it is a good idea to make sure that the edges are painted. These are kind of matte, or these aren't, but it really is, because you can see.
Well, it's a natural linen, and she kind of let it show through. So
yeah, and it looks okay with this, but I've seen them where they don't look all right, where they'll have just white canvas and the paint and everything. You can really see it. So if you're using a float frame, it's a good idea to have the image kind of wrap around the canvas onto the back so you don't miss it. All right, so we're going to show you guys how to do this. Katie, I don't know if you need to get up top and down on while I'm doing this, but if you can see it, we're good. These little guys are offset clips. Now in this particular case, this is the edge that the offset clip needs to be measured by. So in this case, it's about a 1/2 inch. So I got 1/2 inch offset clips. They look like little Z's or S's or that sort of thing. And they basically fold the canvas into the frame. So I will put one there, one there, one over here, and one right there. And they will just, only one screw is necessary per offset clip, and this is a 16x20 canvas. You only need 4. It's pretty small. If it was a bigger piece and a bigger frame, you might want 2 on the longer side, 1 on the short side, and the bigger you go, maybe add 3 on the long side and 2 on the short side. But you're talking about going up to 24x36 or a 36x48, which is very big for a frame.
Now, if this was the same size canvas, but it was a 1.5 inch, would you, just being a heavier canvas and heavier frame, would you put like 2 here and 2 there and then 1 and 1?
Not for this size, no, because the thickness of the canvas isn't going to be that much heavier than the thickness of this one. The only thing is that a 1.5 inch canvas and a 3/4 inch float frame is going to stick up above the face of the frame.
I was just meaning because we do carry those with the 1.5 inch.
Right. We do have the thicker, deeper float frames as well. This is the thinner one. I figured I'd use the thinner one because we had a canvas already done for it, and it makes it so much easier. But this is how you do the offset clips, and I only need to drill one little screw in. Done. Done. And I'm right-handed, so doing these, I usually turn the frame so that I can hold it a little easier. So you guys can figure out what's more comfortable from you. One thing I would like to reiterate about doing this, make sure your drill bit and your pan head and your screw are the same size, the last thing you want to do is start drilling and slip off of that thing and go right through the canvas. And I've seen it happen before, and I've done it before. And the client was not happy with a hole in the canvas. Only did it once, and that was many years ago.
Do it once, you do it never again.
And never again, that's correct. But that's the fourth one. So now the canvas is in there. And I can show you a quick way to do the backing and the wire, which is applied to all frames. Let me get a roll of ATG tape. A lot of folks like to use, can you give me that gun right there? A lot of people like to use these. These are ATG guns for applying double stick tape. They're okay. The only problem is that if the glue starts to come off of the tape and get on the roll, then it starts to clog up and you start to roll it off and it won't work. So I gave up on them years ago. I know some people are better at them than I am. I prefer just to peel off the double stick with my hand and go along the frame, and it's right. I always leave about 1/8 of an inch to the edge because you're going to put paper over it and trim it. And then you can just kind of mat it down like that, get the sticky to stay. Peel off your little piece. Just go around and do all 4 sides. Thank you. And Amy, I'm gonna need a piece of the black paper over there. If you want to just pull off about 2 feet. The width is 36 of that black paper.
The roll on the wall.
Behind you. Underneath the bags, down at the bottom, you'll see the black roll. And that roll is 36 inches, so you only need about 2 feet, and that'll be plenty for me to cover this back of this frame while I finish applying on the double stick.
Oops. not as good.
As long as it covers the frame, you're good, that's fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so now what I do, I'll just come in here and lay this across, and I always start at the top away from me. I'll crease it down. A little trick I use is I'll move it up on the table and use the table to push it down on the other side so it's nice and tight.
That's smart.
And sometimes you'll have little ripples because the offset clips are in there, but that's okay. This is against the wall, so you won't even see it. And do that. And that. Now here's something that took me years to learn how to do without cutting myself or damaging anything. Using a razor blade to trim the paper. Now there is a tool, I don't see it laying around here, but there is a tool that you can use to trim paper off. I don't like to use it because it's a metal guide, and if your frame is a softwood, that's exactly, if you want to show them that, Katie. See the little blade on there? And it has this little guide, so you could just put it against the edge and it would guide your blade. Problem is, this one's plastic, so it's not as hard as the old metal ones used to be, but still, it could potentially scratch a soft wood. In this case, we're using a natural illusion frame, which wouldn't matter because it's unfinished anyway. I prefer to do it this way. I hold a razor blade in my hand, use my finger as a guide or my thumb as a guide, and I can trim it as cleanly and easily and oftentimes straighter than one of those little tools.
You also have a lot of experience doing this.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. And
The
believe me,
basic layperson may want
I
to.
have cut myself doing this, and I have burned myself doing this because I ran too quickly down the paper and it burned my thumb.
Oh.
The friction. So I learned to slow my roll down when I'm doing it. So it's not gonna.
That's the hashtag of the
I was
day.
going to say that is.
So I'm not gonna.
Slow your roll.
Slow your roll, yeah. So that I learned over the years to do it slow and steady, but you will rarely find one of these little guys that can do it better than you can do it by hand. So I got a nice clean backing paper. Thank you, Amy. And now, so this is almost ready to go. We just need to hang it on something. You got to have wire and you got to have D-rings. I got these little guys right here. These are single D-rings. The reason why they call them single is that they only have one hole for a screw. There are bigger D-rings that have 2 holes for screws, and those are for bigger, heavier pieces that you need more
so they can
support.
see it.
These little guys are, yeah, they're kind of tiny. These little guys will be fine for everything we're doing today. They can hold probably up to 30 pounds if they're installed properly. And so what I like to do is I always have the top, when I go to do my D-rings, I always have the top on my left side. And that way, I take my ruler. You always want to hang your art a third of the way down. Put my ruler on the back, it's almost 21 inches, so I'm gonna go 7 inches down from the top. But I always know if I always put the top in my left hand and I'm doing mass production and custom framing, I'm never gonna put the wire on upside down or on the wrong end. If I always have the top on the same side, you get used to it, you'll never have a problem. And so, I got my little D-ring right there. Back with my drill and my screw. Again, you want to be careful, and I've done this 1,000 times too. Got this nice flush paper on the back. It's nice and taut, and then I poke a hole in it with the drill because I went to put the D-ring on. Now, most people would think, oh, you got to tear the paper off and start all over. You do have to start over. You don't have to tear the paper off, just paper over the top of it. It's a lot easier. You're going to be sitting there picking little scraps of paper if you try to go through it. Nobody's going to see it anyway. Whoops, one got away. Little guy in. That's one. Got my top one, so I know the top's that way. You want to have them go across, so I'm not going to do it at an angle. So once I did the first one, I know the top is now on my right hand. I'll just do the second one, and it's approximately 21 inches down, so I'm going a third of the way, so I'm doing 7. Got my little drill. All right, that's all in there. So we got the D-rings. Last but not least, we got the wire. And the wire will be strung up across those, and I always just like unroll enough to have some extra so that when I finish, I can cut it again. You don't want to sell yourself short on the first try. So
I want to see how you're twisting it.
there's a lot of people that'll tell you there are different ways to do this. I always just tie a simple knot like that, and then come back and reinforce it by wrapping the little loose strand over itself. And if you do it right, it'll look nice and
That makes it look easy.
Yeah. No, that's
it'll
actually,
be nice. And some people have you doing knots like a Windsor knot or a half hitch or something, or a fishing knot or something like that. You don't need to worry about that. If you're doing a real big piece and weight is a concern, you'll get a thicker gauge wire or tensile strength wire, and then you'll have double D rings or mirror hangers or something like that. So that's one side, and you can make it look nice and clean. And then what I do on the second side, I draw it really tight like this first, and then kind of crimp it with my thumb where it's going around the D ring, and then draw it back like this. And what you want to do is you want to give it a little slack. So I kind of tug on it a little bit and let the wire actually slip on itself for a second. And that way it's not too tight. If it's too tight, it's going to hang off of the wall at an angle. If it's loose, it'll sit flush. Because there's only so much room that it has between the wall and the back of the art. If it's real tight and flat down against there, you're probably going to puncture the paper trying to get it on the hook. And then I'll just trim a little bit extra there. And because I am right-handed, I will use the same. And I use this thumb to kind of guide it and make sure it's flush with itself as I go around. And just a few of them. Kind of go under there. And be careful playing with that wire too, because it can prick your finger. So that is a good hanging, ready to go, and a little hook. And all you would need to do is nail that little hook. And I think this is probably a 10-pound hook. This probably weighs 1.5 pounds or maybe 2 pounds. So you're fine with that. If you want to protect your wall, these are called bump-ons. There's several names for them: wall protectors, scratch protectors, or something like that. You always put one at the bottom corners, because your frame is going to hang at a slight angle off of the wall, kind of like that, but the bottom will always be against the wall. So you want those guys. And not only that, but if it's smooth like this, it'll slide back and forth if you don't have it properly hung on the hook. If you have the bump-ons, are kind of tacky, so when it hits the wall, it'll just kind of stay in place. But anyway, that's how to install a canvas into a float frame with offset clips, the D-rings, the wire, the bump-ons. If you have a sticker for your company or your art name or whatever,
Yes.
you can put that on the back, and then you got your hook. And that's a whole piece ready to hang on the wall.
there you go.
Yeah, we can put it right here.
Yeah, and that is a good thing that he said, is always put a business card or something, because somebody buys that and they say, oh, I love that piece of art. Who'd you get it from?
Yeah,
If
it's
you
on the
can't
back.
remember, or
It's
you've
on the
lost the
back.
artist's contact information, It's hard to find you to sell more work. So
Well, a lot of people also will put, like, if it was a piece of art their kid did or something like that, they'll even, handwrite a note and put that on the back too, so it's always with it. If you're going to do anything like that, though, I would recommend using some type of acid-free watercolor paper or something like that, so while it's on the wall for many, many years, it doesn't turn to dust and you can't read it anymore. So, and I've seen that a lot with old pieces.
good idea.
All right, Amy, that was the first one. What do you think we should do next?
Why don't you do the basic one with stop.
Questions?
There's a question.
Mary wants to know, is the paper heavy enough to prevent getting punctured when you're hanging it over a nail?
Paper is paper. You can puncture it very easy, and it in this case, because that was a float frame, it's really not necessary to paper the back because it's a canvas. I've heard arguments that say, well, you need to paper the back to keep dust and debris out of there. Well, you need to let canvases breathe. So I've also heard if you do paper it, leave a little hole in the paper. And I've also heard don't paper canvases at all, let them breathe naturally. So because it is paper, and if you were doing another piece of art, like we're about to do here, it's going to be more rigid in the back. It's not going to be open because that is going to have like a backing board behind your art. So it'll be harder to puncture the paper, but paper is paper. You can puncture it, yeah. But if it's on the wall, who's going to know? It's the back is not showing. Okay, do you want to do the charcoal?
What? Yes, let's do that one next.
Okay.
It's actually graphite.
The graphite, okay.
And it's a picture. We'll show the image first because it's actually the upcoming drawing episode. This is going to be one of the pieces featured. We're actually at the after party going to do like a sped up version of the artwork done in its entirety.
Oh, wow.
So they'll get to see how it was done.
Who did this one?
I did.
You did this one. Okay, so Amy did this one. Great. I was hoping we have a piece you did. Very nice, too. Sad elephant. All right, so this one is a graphite.
Yes.
Any art going in a frame with glass, the number one rule is the art should never touch the glass. The reason is there's something called image transference, and I've seen it 100 times where the art is against the glass and it's been in that frame for 20 years, and you take the art out of that frame and off the glass and a bunch of the images on the glass. It can take up your image. It can cause a ghosting outline of your image on the glass. I've seen it a bunch of times. It is never a good idea to do it. And also with charcoal or pastels or oils or anything like that, they can actually stick to the glass and you're stuck with it. So if that glass ever gets dirty or anything, it's always going to have to be there, because if you try to peel it off, it's going to tear your paper and damage your art. So always remember to never have the art touching the glass. And in this case, we're going to prevent that with spacers. Now, I don't know if you guys can
Katie,
see.
can you zoom in on this?
I got 3 sides done just to show you 3 of the spacers installed. So the spacers are these black acrylic strips, and I got them on 3 sides. And they're 1/4 of an inch, and they come in all shapes and sizes, but 1/4 of an inch is a really good size because most rabbet widths, the little ledge, is a 1/4 of an inch, so they usually fit in there flush. But you put those on the way these guys work, and I will show you. I got 3 of them done right now. This is the 4th one, and all it is just a piece of acrylic, and I will just peel the adhesive off the back, and then just plop it in there, and I pinwheel them so that they're pretty tight, and then it just sticks to the side of the frame like that. So basically, it's holding the glass in right now, and it's creating a buffer for the artwork. So the artwork will not touch the glass, and I'll show you that in just a second. I always like to make sure, it's always a good idea to put the spacers in. Clean your glass as best you can before you put it in the frame, and then when you get your spacers on, double check, inspect it, because the last thing and the thing that drives all framers crazy is you get a piece finished, you put the paper on the back, the wire, you're ready to deliver it or hang it or whatever, and you see a big chunk of dust in there. And you can try and ignore it, but if you're like me, you'll have nightmares about it and you'll have to fix it. So we got the frame ready to go. The glass is in there with the spacers. The art's right here. This is acid-free foam board. I always recommend all paper art mounted on acid-free foam board. Acids are activated by light, UV rays, even ambient lighting from fluorescence or whatever kind of light you have in your house can activate dormant acids. Best example is a newspaper on your dashboard on a sunny day. 2 hours later it is yellow, and that is the sun activating all the acids in the paper. Well, newspaper is highly acidic. But this is acid-free foam board, so it has a buffered coating to prevent any acids from ever forming on it. That is what needs to go against your art on the back side. And so we have that, and this is all cut to size, so now I'm going to drop it into the frame. And as long as everything fits properly, sometimes you have to manipulate it.
And for this, we are using a plein air 3-inch gold frame.
16 by 20. And okay, so now it's all in there. I actually got it right side up. How do we keep it in? All right, let me show you that. Did you get that on, Katie? Okay. All right, so we have a point driver. Now there's all different kinds of point drivers. This one's actually a professional Fletcher point driver. These guys run around $100 or so. The Fletcher will last forever though. This one's been in this shop for probably 12 years. These are the points. And they're just little points, and they're on basically like a little clip. And they have a little adhesive thing that keeps the clip together, but they will be shot separately when they go in the gun. But that's how they come.
Got teeny tiny nail gun.
Yep. And the little guy right here, you can see how it's spring activated, so it keeps tension on it, pushing them towards the triggering mechanism. So you just pull that back, fold that in, you're ready to load them, drop them down in there, untwist it, it's ready to go. And so what we do in this case, I'm probably going to do 3. Yeah, I'll do 3 on these 2 long sides and 2 on the short side. So we'll start with the long side. You just lay it flat, and this is the edge of the inside of the frame. You don't want to go over. If you go over like that, it's going to shoot off. If you go too far like that, you might shoot down and hit your glass and break it. I've done both of those before. I've shot it into my hand before, hold my hand like that. And so
Watch your fingers.
these are all framing things. If you do it professionally, you will cut yourself 1,000 times, and you'll be used to it, and then you won't ever do it again, and it becomes second nature. And so
It's like a chef.
you'll figure out how to
Or
not to
sculptor.
burn yourself or cut yourself. Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna do 3. So, and those little guys just stick in the frame, and the back tab holds the art in. And you can see how it kind of dimples in. That means I got a nice snug fit. That means that's really anchored in because it's kind of bending the foam cord down. And I'll do 3 on the opposites. I always like to do everything in opposites in framing, stretching canvas one side, do the opposite side, and that sort of thing. And then we'll do the 2 on here. And basically you're done. That is not going to go anywhere. And then what I showed you with the float frame a little while ago, we just put the double stick around here, put the paper on there, you can mash it down and crease it, and then you can trim it whichever way you do it. Trimming it, you can do it the old-fashioned way with a razor blade and a straight edge to make sure you got a straight line. You can use one of those tools, or you can get really good and just hold the razor blade in your hand and do it like I did. But that takes a little bit of practice, and you'll mess up. But, that is that. That actually looks pretty good in there. So as you can see, Katie, if you want to come down at an angle like that, you can see the darkness. That's the spacer down in there, and so you know that that piece is not up against the glass.
That's nice though, because you can't really tell that's what it is. It looks
Yes, Amanda.
good.
If you mat the artwork, do you need the spacers?
No, ma'am. Mats will play as they spit. Amanda just asked me if matting the artwork, if I could do that instead of using spacers. Absolutely. That's what a lot of people do and use mats for. They're just as easy to do. They're an aesthetic addition too, so you can do colored mats and that sort of thing. So you can really enhance certain pieces of art. Black and white like this, I probably would have done a gray mat with maybe a black core, the inside. And probably have put it in a silver frame. This is a little warm, but it still works with the piece. Got great contrast.
Yeah, well, the kind of
Yeah, the
antiquing of
the
it, I
gray
actually
rub
like
in
it.
there.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
it without the mat too.
Yeah, and that's something you have to think about too, is that the frame is not the end all. The frame is a part of your art. It's a whole composition when it's done. It's not just a way of presenting what you did. It's a way of enhancing it. Otherwise, thumbtack industry would be through the roof, and you see nothing but art hung on walls with thumbtacks to it. Yep, stick it on our tape.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
that too. So that's how to do something like that. And another question,
Go ahead and
yes.
Take those.
Do
while
you
we-
use anything for anti-static?
Anti-static. Well, the one thing you can do, static is always generated by the glass. That's where it comes from mostly. And an easy way to curb that is if you rinse your glass first, it can prevent that, or you really douse it with like Windex or something like that, and use a microfiber cloth when you clean it. But there is nothing really you can do to prevent static on real glass. Now there is an acrylic glazing called anti-static shield. That is very expensive. That is what museums tend to use, and the stuff is probably, for a piece the size of this frame, would probably be about $400. just for the
Holy cow.
acrylic. Yeah, I mean, it gets really expensive. And there are all kinds of glass. We should probably do a glass episode one time. Yeah, just
Well, this is basic framing. We were going to, in the future, do some
evolve
advanced.
up.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so
So.
another question. We love it. Yes.
Currently the last question.
Okay.
Do you put the sticky side of the spacer against the frame or against the glass?
The frame. And the reason why is because and then let me pull one out so I can show you guys. So this is
This is long.
This is the full length of spacer. I think they're like 48 inches or 50 inches or something like that. If you put it against the glass, it would be standing upright and then it wouldn't hold on to anything. If it's going against the glass, it's going down like that and it'll just fall right out. So it has to go against the frame on the side to lock it in. Also, the reason why it's 1/4 of an inch is because the rabbet, which is,
Just pull, yeah, pull it out. Here.
pop that guy out. This is called your rabbet. And rabbets are standard at 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch wide. And the reason why these spacers are made 1/4 of an inch wide is so that they don't extend past the rabbet edge. You can see like how that guy will sit in there and you won't see it looking straight down from the face, just like you can look straight down on this and you don't see the spacer sticking out. So they absolutely have to go against the frame. That's how they lock in and hold everything in place.
Oh wow, you can see that really well on the
Yeah. All right.
camera. That's awesome.
Well, we're moving right along.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Cooking with gas.
Yeah, we are. So the last thing, well, I guess we'll
Second to the last.
second to the last. Oh yeah,
We got two
those.
more.
Yep. So we're gonna do a panel, and this is a Lumicomp and flamingo. Is this right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do this?
You
one as well?
ornithologist, you. Yes, I did. Actually, it was for our Charvin episode.
Oh, nice.
It was.
So this is oil.
Yes, it is.
Charvin oil. That's the Cadillac of oils, by the way, folks.
It is.
Very good painting too. Amy did another one, flamingo. Okay, so we're going to do this one. This is just because this is on panel and it's oil. You don't really need glass for it. So we're just going to pop this one straight in the frame, and this is not going to take long at all.
Here, I'll move this other one so you're.
Straight down in there. So this is what it's going to look like in the frame, and you could do this several ways. You know, and thinking about it, I might be inclined to use offset clips with this. Let me pull them out here because it looks like that's about 1/4 of an inch. About 1/4 of an inch, I believe. Let's see.
I think it's just a little more.
It'll be a little more. Let's do 3/8. Let's do these guys. So these are offset clips again. You've seen them before. And the oops, that's a 1/2 inch one got in there somehow. The reason why I wanted to do these is after I felt the weight of the Lumicomp panel. This panel is,
It's hefty.
yeah, it is. It's about 3/16 of an inch thick. So it's a little heavy. It's like having a piece of heavy glass or something like that.
Right. It's not going to be the weight of like a canvas panel.
Right, yeah.
Because
So
it's a little more durable.
instead of using the points that I would normally use with lightweight stuff and that sort of thing, the piece I just did had it had spacers anchoring the glass down, and then the only thing I had to do was anchor everything down with this, and that was a piece of paper and foam core, which is very lightweight. This has a little more weight, so after feeling it, I think it's better to use offset clips because they actually screw into the frame instead of them shoot. I just didn't want to put points around there, and those points are pliable, so they can start to bend if you, especially if you move it around and transport it, and then eventually a few of them could pop out, and your art would pop out. So I think having the offset clips for an Lumicomp is a little better, and we'll just run through this again. And
Now, with this being a little bit pliable, is this a case where it would be good to do
No, and
do two, or is it
well,
not
the-
really?
here's-
I think I do overkill on hardware.
You
'cause
might,
I'm just-
yeah. I mean, this
No,
is
I
only a
do.
16 by 20 frame, but I have
Okay.
these really deep screws. These are 3/8 inch deep screws. So, and this is a solid wood. So
Yeah,
I got enough with 4 screws in the middle of each side is going to be enough. Now, if you went the bigger ones and you had a bigger piece, the
Right,
weight
right,
of the
right.
aluminum is going to be more. So you might
Yes.
want to consider adding more
Okay.
offsets. Same thing
Good
I
to know.
discussed with the canvas. You know, if you got bigger, then you probably want to add some. But so these guys just go in like we did the last time. And again, you always want to be careful drilling, not that it's going to go through that, but it will dent it if you slip. Now, that's all in there.
Looks good in that frame.
It does, yeah.
It makes that flamingo
eyeball-
glow.
The
it
eyeball
does.
Yeah.
pops out,
It
yeah.
makes this look very
Glowy.
electric.
Yep.
Patty's dying. Pinks and golds, man.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so that's all in there, and then in this case, we only
All right.
would need this wire and get it for the wall.
Okay, so so when we do this, because we're going to do this to show an offset with
Good point. Let me take these out, and then I'll wire that
Yes,
one when we're
I think
done.
that'd be
Yeah,
better.
I was getting ahead of myself. I was just going to go ahead and put a piece of wire across. This is aluminum. You don't need to have backing paper on it. Some people like backing paper because it looks nice on the back side. I never understood that. It's on the wall. You're looking at it, or you're not going to go to a dinner party and someone take the painting off the wall. Look at the back.
would it be better to do you want to wire that and then we could take, or is it easier to take the points out of this to use this one? Or that?
I only
Okay.
got to remove 4
Right.
screws here, yeah. So we can do it that
Knock
way.
yourself
So
out.
just imagine I put D-rings on here. I would have the top on my left hand, so I know what the top is. Go third of the way down, put my D-rings in, flip it around, do the other one, then do the wire like I did last time. But we're going to take this out. Easy enough. So that's out, and I will trade the aluminum. I have problems saying aluminum.
Yeah.
This is a original Joe DiGiulio. Joe is an artist with Jerry's Artarama.
It's an early Joe DiGiulio.
It is.
An early one, yeah. And so that's going to go straight in there, and we're going to need 1/4 inch offsets on that. And they're either 1/4 or 1/8. The reason why I say that,
Here.
Katie, if you can see how the canvas is just sticking up a little bit above the frame, it's probably fine
That's
to
a
use
1/4.
that. That'll be perfect.
See.
1/4 inch.
That
That's
work?
perfect. That'll hold it right in there. And so this is kind of going reverse for what we did with the float frame. We were going down like that, where this way we're going up on it. Now, the one thing you got to remember is that this is a really wide molding. This is sticking up just a little bit from the back. It won't matter because of the width of the molding. When it's on the wall, you would not be able to get your head close enough to see the canvas sticking out the back. But now if the canvas was, say, that far off, you definitely
Yeah.
would see it. So you have to consider that when you buy canvas and the frame you're going in, you want to make sure, if this was a real thin molding, you would see it. You want to make sure that the molding is wide enough to hide it if it's sticking out the back just a little bit.
For something like the plein air frames, because those are very popular frames for us, what would you say is probably the deepest canvas?
3/4,
you wanna
just
go?
like this one.
Okay, so you wouldn't
Yeah.
want to go to like a 1 inch or 1.5.
No, 1 inch will stick up too much. It'll look
Okay.
like a button on the wall because it'll be so far off.
3D.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
3D, and maybe that's the look you're going for, but you want to make sure that
Yeah.
you know the
Okay.
art is
Yeah,
doing
that's a
what it's
good,
supposed to do.
because we would have a lot of people ask that.
Okay, so we'll just put this guy in, and we'll just I'm gonna do it back in the same hole, basically. I figure out how to do them. There we go. You should just go right in because I'll put the screw holes in. Now there might be a little, these are 1/4 inch offsets. I don't think we have an 1/8 inch. 8 probably would have been better.
If you do.
You do? Okay, and I'll show the difference. Let me put I'll put 2 quarters and 2 eighths. All right, so we'll take these off. You want to make sure that you have the right size offset clip, and it might not be, you might not see what I'm talking about that well, but I can demonstrate it. Yeah, so definitely the 1/8 inch ones are a lot tighter than the 1/4 inch.
Now the 1/4 inch would work if you're kind of in between sizes. You just need to
They would work
screw a really
fine.
shallow screw.
The only
into
thing
this.
is, if Katie, if you can see this, how the 1/4 inch are off the canvas, so they're floating above it. That's all that would happen, is it would be wobbly a little bit. Once it's on the wall, it'll be fine.
If you needed a little extra insurance, is it okay to take a very shallow screw and just kind of tap it into that through that hole?
What up in there?
Or do you recommend not doing that?
I don't recommend doing that. I recommend using the proper size offset clip. Or if this is all you have, then you can make a shim. You can fold like cardboard or something and shove it under there to make it tight. But 1/8 inch was perfect for that because it's not moving. The 1/4 inch you can see is kind of bouncing around. So it would have been better to have 1/8 all the way around. It would have been tight. And then we can paper the back of this guy if you want to do that. Or
That's fine.
Okay.
You want to switch those out?
yeah, let's switch these out to the proper one. And this is kind of a tricky way of papering the back because these plein air frames have these little triangular corners on them, and they are just meant to brace the corners a little more from getting banged around during shipping everything. Those are these little plates right here. Now in this case, this works out fine because the plate is almost as deep as the canvas is sticking up, so that it's almost flush all the way across the back. So you'll be fine hanging it on the wall like that. Now we're going to replace these 1/4 inch with the 1/8 inch, and then this thing will be perfectly tight. And another thing about when you use a screw, this is a really deep frame. I mean, this frame is probably 1.5 inches deep or somewhere around there. Sorry. So be cognizant about your screw depth. You never want it to go, you never want a deep screw and then you flip your frame over and you see all these dimples on the face where the screw was
gotten
gone.
through.
We've
Yeah.
had people call in that put them all the way through.
Yeah, and it damages the face of the frame, and once you do that, you're done. I mean, it's not a good thing. And I've done that too. Anything that you guys have done by mistake or accident, I've done 100 times. So, well, some of them. It's usually, yes, Amanda, we got a question.
What's the difference between a plein air frame and another frame?
It's the style of the frame.
Yeah,
it's
the brand.
just a brand. Plein air is like sitting outside painting a picture or something like that. And these were frames that were developed for that sort of thing. They're not too ornate, don't have a lot of beads or flowers.
It looks a lot like the traditional impressionist style frames
Exactly.
that you see like on Monet's and things like that.
And those folks,
Where
Right,
there's
so-
a lot going on and you don't want to compete with the
Right.
artwork.
And when you're framing abstracts,
impressionism.
it's a really good idea, abstracts, is to figure out where the signature is, because that's usually at the bottom. So, I mean, I could hang Joe's piece that way, I could hang it that way, I could hang it that way, and the only way you would know I was wrong is because you see the signature and it should be hanging this way. So, because I know that the signature is down here at the bottom, I always have the top starting on my left hand, got my D-ring.
Well, that's one of the other reasons to make sure when you sign your artwork, you actually sign it. I've seen people sign it like on the very, very bottom.
And it gets covered up
And
by
it gets
the frame.
covered up by the frame
That's
or
a
the
good
mat,
point.
yeah.
Yes,
They
yes.
can't tell.
Like I mentioned a little while ago, that little lip right here is about 3/8 or 1/4 of an inch. So if you put your signature right at the edge of the art, it's going to come over your signature. So it's always a good idea to come in at least probably a full inch, which looks like Joe got pretty close right here. He got close to that edge, but that's pretty good. Yeah, you don't want your signature to get covered up by the frame. All right, so double check again. It's always a good idea to check, measure 100 times, in my opinion, and then check, make sure you're doing it right side up. So I know that the top is in my left hand, so I know to measure down from the top. This is 21, so it's going to be 7 inches, a third of the way down. You always want to go. And in this case, you can either do it two ways. You can either have the D-ring screw it into the frame, or you can screw it into the canvas. Either way, in this case, it'll be fine. I'd usually go into the frame just because I'm further away from that. So if I slip,
Plus, a lot of artists will paint
Swap
in a
out.
similar size and swap it out. So you want to be cognizant of that when you're doing your frames.
yeah, if I have the D-rings
Especially
like
traveling
this,
for
Yes.
shows and stuff like that,
Yes.
you can
Yep.
switch it out easier.
yeah, and if I have a D-ring like that, all they have to do is cut the wire off,
Yep.
get it out, leave the D-rings on, put a new piece of art in,
Yep.
and then rewire it. So you're fine. You know it's going to be a third of the way down, and in this case 7 inches, so I'll do it like that. So that one's,
Are you going to show us how to paper the back of this with these kind of kooky corners?
oh, I can, yeah, that'll be,
I want to see Sam.
This will
take
be-
the
this is-
challenge
this
here.
is,
Let me go
uh,
get you some.
this is advanced papering.
If you can,
This is suddenly not a 100 level class.
Now we're at the 200 level. This is
Oh,
advanced
boy.
papering. So in this case, because one of these got wonky, meaning that guy is way at the edge where the rest of them had a nice little space right here that I could have gone over these, I'm going in front of them. I'll have to go over the D-rings, but that's fine. So I'm going to put the double stick right to that inside edge.
Oh, you're not opting not to go over those triangles. Huh?
Well, it's because this one's
I know,
all the way at the edge, yeah.
teasing you.
And that would, doing my little method, that would get me. That's the easier way to do it.
that's blood on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the first time that's happened.
American
I've taken
framing,
you to the
horror
ER
framing
before, Sam.
stories.
Come on. I know where it's at now.
Amy's bled on camera
Yep.
before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
The great pencil sharpener incident of
Yeah.
2017.
would you stick your finger in the pencil sharpener?
No, it apparently wasn't very well covered where the blade was.
Hey,
She's turning it and she's keeps looking down at her finger. We're like,
you're grinding your
Yeah.
she goes,
finger.
Oh, no,
well, I'm
there
bleeding
was
and I was going to
blood
ignore it, but
everywhere.
it won't
Yep.
stop.
Yep.
Brand new
All-
pencil
all for the
sharpener.
viewers.
Yeah. Brand new sharp pencil sharpener.
Yeah.
And anytime you folks are dealing with this tape and stuff like that, these edges are very sharp. So
Yes.
if you, it's a bad paper cut.
Oh, it's like when you do it on like a file, like a manila.
Yeah,
file, you
exactly.
do it.
Yeah,
That's the.
or like an envelope with your tongue.
Yeah. Oh.
Thank you, Sam.
Well, it heals a lot better or quicker. All
It
right,
does.
so I got my double stick down.
It's the little
Amanda.
thing.
All right, Amy got the paper for me, and
Yep. Might have been a little gratuitous in size. 'Cause
No,
I
that's
thought you were
all right.
going over the whole edge, but
so what I'm trying to make this look as clean as I can. So I'm gonna try and line it up at the corner here. That looks like
I say, is the tape repositionable at all? Like, do you get any?
that double stick.
Oh yeah, not much.
It is grabby.
It is sticky.
And this is they actually have high tack. This is not a high tack
oh
tape.
gosh.
The high tack is meant for mounting artwork though.
Oh, okay.
This could be too. This is actually acid free. Or no, this isn't acid free. So this is good for doing backing. Acid free double sided tape would be a white roll. This is a brown roll. So this is made for doing the backing. And I
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't want to use it anywhere near
kind of
your
missed a
artwork.
little bit over here, but you guys will get the idea. And this is, like I said, it's a little more tricky to do it this way than it is to just go around and trim. And so now this is, I have to use a guide. And this is, I've actually really cut myself bad going across my fingers when it slipped off of the rail. Off of the ruler I'm using, but I just put a straight edge down. If you
I've
do it-
actually done that and trying not to cut my finger and have shaved like metal
roller.
shavings
The
off
roller,
of my
yeah.
rollers.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So much for a straight edge. It's got like a gouge right where I like have to move my hand.
And I rarely use straight edges for any of this stuff. Usually I have the frame as a guide, but because I don't have that in this case, I have to use a straight edge. And you guys can see I kind of missed the tape right here, but that's okay because that tape can be removed. And I'll show you how I do that. Just clean that little bit up right there. So I got it all done. Got a little bit of exposed tape.
This is mas-
Amanda's,
masking fluid.
Look at Amanda's face is priceless.
Oh, the noise.
And the impending paper cut.
Yeah.
Oh, this is smooth. That's all down on there. The only thing that you can get doing this is a friction burn on your index finger. And not to be gross or anything, but we call these ATG boogers because that's exactly what they look like.
Hashtag framing boogers.
Yep. And ATG is an acronym for Adhesive Transfer Gum. But a fancy name
I was
for
going to ask that earlier.
double-sided tape. So anyway,
Oh, now you gotta put your D-rings on.
put my wire on. So
Where's the signature?
because this is abstract, have to find the signature down at the bottom. And I got ATG boogers all over me, so you gotta watch out for that. So top on the left, bottom on the right. Always keep it consistent, and you'll never make a mistake. And then we go.
Never say never.
Well, you will make a mistake, but if you've been doing it as long as I have, you will know to.
There's
have
less chance,
Yeah,
you're
less
saying.
chance. Yeah. Woo-woo. Kick that guy up a little bit. Flip it around. And I usually do go through these things a lot faster than
Yeah,
what
sorry.
we're doing right now. I'm slowing my roll so you folks can keep up. Okay, another ATG booger.
You've been boogered.
I've been boogered. And this is number 4 wire, which is, I think, 10 pounds. It's real thin. It might be 20. No, number 3 is 20. I think the higher the number, the less weight it goes.
Yes, I believe you were right.
I had an interesting question the other day about the gauge of wire and what would be comparable to the Canadian standards for rabbit snaring.
Okay.
Number 2, 20-pound Jerry's wire is perfect for rabbit snaring in
Because-
Canada. Now, that's not
I
American
was
rabbit
gonna say,
snaring.
because that might come up when you're playing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
The things
some
that
sort of
Canadian
useless
trivia.
knowledge.
Yeah, the Canadian trivia or something like that.
Hey.
But I had to let the customer
Which
know
of the
that.
picture framing wires you can use for a rabbit snare number 2, eh?
Yeah, I had to actually research that and found that our number 2 falls in the guidelines with the Canadian rabbit snares. So if you're in Canada and want to snare a rabbit, get you some number 2 Jerry's wire and you'll be good to go, or picture framing wire.
Or if you're out framing in the wilderness, just in case the plane crashes, you'll be able to
Perfect.
survive.
I was gonna say, if you're
Yeah.
trapped on a desert island.
Yeah. Well, no,
Or you
then,
just
then
wanna
we need to know what
multitask.
works as fish hooks. It's an island, Katie. Rabbits. Island.
There's rabbits on some islands.
Ready to hang. Ready to hang. Oh, got
Those
one
colors.
thing.
Oh, what'd you forget? Colors look good together.
Bump on.
Bumpies.
Oh.
These little guys, the staples on here, so you really, on the plein air frames, you really want to put them on the little triangle corner pieces because they're raised up from the frame. If I put it down there, it's not going to be as effective as if I have it right there. And that is all ready to go.
I'm sure we have more questions at this point. We don't have more questions at this point.
Do any of you
Okay,
guys-
I'm going to reiterate our winners because anybody who missed it at the beginning.
Okay.
They need to message me or
Yes.
I can't get them their card because
All
I need their
right.
email.
Okay, our winners for the 3 Jerry's $10 e-gift cards, Raven 6, Krista Craig Petrie, and Jenny Bate. They need to message Katie on the Jerry's Artarama Facebook page with your email address so she can send you your e-gift card.
Yep. And congratulations to all of y'all.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And if you want to, how many people, do you know how many people we had this week?
Not off the top of my head this week now.
Okay, so if you want to enter for next
Chances
week.
are pretty good.
Yeah, the chances are awesome. Hashtag inspired by Jerry's Live.
All right. Yeah.
Puts you in the running for this week.
We need to plan out the next framing episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some people asking questions about some other things. I know somebody asked about shadow boxes.
Shadow
Double
boxes.
Yeah,
matting.
Double matting.
Yeah, what?
What
Here's
do
the
they wanna-
perfect
yeah.
example. What types of things would you like us to include on some future framing
Yes,
episodes?
yes. You guys give
This
us
is the
input.
perfect time to jump in and
What framing questions do you have?
Mm-hmm.
yes, artwork framing. We didn't. We're not doing jerseys or
or buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Jerry's frame shops can do those.
Yes,
We can't do buildings, but we can do jerseys.
yes. Unless they're like miniature model buildings, you could probably do that.
We could do a quick walkthrough of like some of our fancy equipment. I mean,
Yeah.
I got a glass cutter behind me. That's where we cut our glass. And you can trim our foam board on this thing.
Yeah.
It's got a head that goes up and down. And this
That's
is
actually a good point because they can, if you shoot your clips through
Yes.
and break the glass, you can always come to the frame shops and get a
Yeah.
piece cut.
Yeah.
Or you can get a piece cut anytime. Can't it? Doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It just if you need glass.
I've
for
had
something.
people that have like the windows with like the little mini panes in them, and one got busted out, and they come buy a couple of pieces of our premium clear glass, double it up, and then put the trim around it. They're good to go. It gets foggy in the middle. I had to tell them that because if it gets cold and you got
Right.
two pieces of glass, you can have one pane that's foggy.
Right.
But this is our wall and glass cutter. That thing over there is.
Why don't you walk over towards it so Katie's aware of what that thing
This
I mean, I
thing
figured-
right here, this is a wizard, and it really is a wizard. And when I was working here in this store, we called it Scappy, and we had a little alligator on the.
Oh
head of it.
yeah.
And yeah, it was Scappy the mat cutter. But this is a CNC mat cutter. You can get one for the low price of about $80,000. They work off of, this is the computer that runs it, which is down right now. But this thing can cut multiple openings, it can cut ovals, it can cut vinyl, it can cut balsa wood, it can do embossing, you can put a boom adapter on the cutting head with a pin so it can do French lines around mats.
Wow.
There's all kinds of things this thing can do. Maybe one day we'll show y'all how it works in its glory.
Yeah, that'd be kind of neat. We could do an episode showing like there's basic framing and then there's what you take to the frame shop and the cool stuff you can get done.
Yeah.
So
And I actually think a good thing for a lot of you folks probably are considering buying a mat cutter and cutting mats by hand with a mat cutter. So maybe I could break out one of our old-fashioned hand mat cutters and show y'all how to use those. That was the
Yeah, we have
first
the
way
Logan
I
ones.
learned to cut mats. I actually started with length of molding, had a saw to cut the lengths of the molding. Back then we had thumb nailers or V-nailers that would shoot the pins underneath them. You glue them and you had to let the frame dry, and then you have to cut the mats by hand, the glass by hand. A lot you have to still do by hand, backing in the glass, but now they have routing machines. You have these little biscuits that you can put your frames together. You have a digital mat cutter that can cut any mat shape, size that you need. The industry has gone probably 80% automated now, and it won't be long before the actual person doing the work is obsolete. They'll have some machine to do that. But in the interim, it's a fun thing to do. It's a great hobby, and there is nothing more satisfying than seeing a look on someone's face when they bring just a piece of art in and they pick up their finished framing and they light up in the room when they see it. And it's very rewarding. That's one of the things I like about it. And I kind of miss it too, being at the retail level where I could work with people and instead of being in my office at corporate.
I like it when you frame my artwork and I don't have to do it. That makes me happy.
Yeah, everybody over there does. Yeah, I'm the frame runner for Jerry's Artarama corporate.
You're the frame runner.
Yeah, frame runner. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about framing or have suggestions for future episodes, I know you guys have run into problems. I know you have. Write them down, make mental notes when you come across them. Send them in to us to let us know what they are. Our call center is really good about answering questions like that. But if there are enough of the same questions come along, then that might warrant me doing another episode on them, and try and answer your.
Well, and they can come back after this episode is live
And
and
watch
when it's
it.
posted,
Yep.
and leave questions there, and we can get you to answer them too.
And this
So.
was simple framing today. The most difficult thing I think was probably doing the spacers. And spacers, I pinwheel the spacers by that. Let me see if I can find a pin. I can show y'all real quick how I do that. There's got to be a writing utensil in here somewhere.
oh,
Oh, cool. So, for those of y'all that don't know what pinwheeling is,
Look, he can do it without a vector.
Isn't that amazing?
I know. What?
I don't have to have Illustrator.
I swear they're not related, y'all. They're like brother and sister.
What us?
Make sure I'm doing it right.
As long as they don't refer to us like as peas and carrots, because somebody did about Mike and I, and it was just really cute. That has to be Mike's and I think.
Peas and carrots.
Carrots, yeah.
You're like
Watch
Forrest and Jenny.
Yep.
Watch your peas and carrots.
As long as I'm,
Okay.
I'm hoping I was Jenny on that, on that duo, but one never knows.
So pinwheeling is like when they kind of
Yeah.
overlap all the way around. And the reason why I do that with spacers is because if I do it like this and then have the other one come in like that, there might be that little gap. But if I have it, the other one come in down like that, pinwheel style, then there is no space.
Then you won't see that
You
in there,
won't-
especially if you're using the black.
And black is always, I don't know why they make clear spacers. It makes no sense to me because a lot of the inside edges of a frame aren't finished. Like in this one, if I took it out, you would see the gold leafing overlapping the red underrub.
Oh yeah.
You would see that with clear spacers.
You don't think about that, yeah.
You would see that with clear spacers.
Yeah.
Black spacers cast a nice dark shadow, and they prevent you from seeing that. But that's the way you pinwheel them. Spacers can be cut with wire cutters. The ones we have are solid acrylic. They're the professional spacers. There are spacers that are hollow in the middle. You cut them with these guys, but you're going to have a pinched end, so you're going to need to go in and kind of flare it out with like a needle or the tip of your wire cutters, because it will bend down. They're real pliable.
What would be better to cut them with?
I don't know of any way
Like
you
a
can
little
prevent that.
jigsaw or
Yeah, I
something?
mean, it would have to be something that
With
went
a
really
plastic blade?
fast so that it doesn't.
Okay.
You know, these guys are going to pinch it before they go through
Okay.
it. The acrylic ones are just solid, so they pop right off. But yeah, and use black, folks. You don't want to use clear ones. If you use clear ones, whatever the rabbit inside of your frame looks like, you're going to be able to see it.
Or potentially even get a reflection if lighting is right.
Yeah,
with
oh
it
yeah,
being
yeah,
clear.
yeah. So that's another problem you can have. And I can take this. Let's see, which one did I do easier? This one's easier, so I can show you.
Yeah.
We'll switch places if you want to grab this guy.
Yep.
And there's actually a tool to remove these little things. I thought it was the dumbest thing to build one when these tend to work pretty damn good. But the tool was shaped like it, and you can put it on there and it kicks out. But some people like them. I don't. You know, I'm the guy that uses just a razor blade to trim paper and his thumb. And I've been doing it a long time. And another little trick is a good idea when you're dealing with these guys to have a magnet. Quick cleanup.
You're impressed.
I am.
See.
It's the simple things that impress
know.
me.
It's little boxes.
Little
and
boxes.
So now you
Or
got to be kind
tinfoil.
of careful. I
Simple
don't wanna
pleasures, many treasures.
mess up Amy's elephant.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
let's not do that. Maybe.
All right, so if you see down here, see how it's like this just rubby looking gold right in there? If these spacers were clear, you would see that. It would be like a space between the art and the face of the frame that you could see just this weird stuff. Now it's all gold, you might not notice it that much, but if this was a red underrub or something, you would definitely see it, and it wouldn't look nearly as nice as having the dark spacers
Now,
that are
if you-
solid.
Question, because now I want to know if you had clear ones, if you wanted to paint the inside of that like a fun color, and then put the clear ones on so you can purposely see it.
You know what? You can either do that or you could paint your spacers.
Yeah, that's for sure.
One or the other. One or the other. But if you buy black to start with, you don't have to worry about painting anything except for the art. The primary thing. But anyway, so
Yeah.
that's why I like
Then again,
it.
you have to be looking very closely to see it too.
Yeah, and I mean, framers are really detail-oriented people. So if I had put that in and saw that this gold speck was there, I would have taken the whole thing out and started over because it would have drove me nuts. And spacers are especially important for something like a pastel. Now that's a whole different thing about framing pastels. Pastels, I would always recommend using a mat, and maybe that could be another episode. But when I do a
Yeah,
mat for a
we should do that.
pastel, I have it raised above the pastel, and then under where it hangs, if it hangs like this is the top, and the mat's floated above, about 1/4 of an inch above the artwork, and it casts a shadow, yes. You can't see the edge of the artwork because it's going to be kind of dark, but I will use tape and build a trough with the reverse side of the tape at the bottom of the mat. That way, if any dust falls down, it sticks to the tape and doesn't get on the face of your
Yeah,
mat.
that's good. Or
Yeah.
dust up and onto
Or
the glass
dust
or
up
something
and on,
like that
yeah.
if it's moved.
And
or-
some people use fixatives on their pastels. I don't like to because it dulls the image, I think. But you can build a trough for it.
Depends on the quality of the pastel
Mhm.
and the quality of the fixative.
The fixative,
Yep,
yeah.
because if it's good quality pastel, it won't.
Right. And we have both at
Like
Jerry's
the-
Artarama.
Right.
Yep.
Right. They might have seen that on our pastel episode. We actually used fixative on a work.
Oh, okay.
with-
I'll have to check that
different
one out.
types.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and look at your episodes and say, oh, I can tell them how to frame that or
Yeah.
ideas for that. Yeah. So I might even come up with an episode.
Yeah, we definitely had people asking when we did encaustics and how to frame that. So that would be a good one too.
Yeah. Well, there
yeah.
we go.
The good old wax episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
The two of them.
Wax on.
Well, that would be a whole different world. That would be involved in acrylic because to put over encaustics, you want to have a thermal insulator and not a thermal conductor because the wax could get lucid and
That's
start
like
to run.
401 level.
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
way up there.
Way-
Way up there. Yeah,
That's like the
build
top
up
of the
knowledge.
staircase.
Yeah.
that's graduate school.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Are there
we
any
got-
last
yeah.
questions? As long as we're anything.
What's funny
any-
is there was a question about the pastel stuff that I was gonna ask, and then Sam just went for
Well,
it. So-
boom.
Thought about it.
Sometimes I get lucky. Sometimes. But anyway, yeah, you guys come up with your questions, and if I hear more of the same question, then maybe it warrants an episode. So,
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. So we can take it from there. But it's on you guys. Let me know. Let me know what you want to know, and any questions you might have. I mean, lay it on me. I can handle it.
All right. Well, I think if we don't have any other questions, I think that kind of wraps up episode 32. If you missed it, I'm sure that Amanda has been posting it intermittently, but it's JL32 in the search box on jerrysartarama.com. We'll pull up the frames if you saw the gold frame and we're like, I must have one of those.
And now
They can find
they can still when they pull up the video to watch it later, they can still ask questions and
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So we could go back and answer
Yes.
those later. I'll take a look
Yep.
later tonight and see if there's anything that I need to
Yeah.
answer. But Amanda's been pretty good about that. Thank you,
Yes,
Amanda.
she has.
That's right.
And
I'm the
thank you,
best.
Katie.
Yes, she is. Yes. All
Thank
right.
you,
Well,
Mandy.
thank you. Yes, thank you, Sam, for
Yeah,
being on.
no
We
problem, no
appreciate
problem.
it. And
I enjoyed it.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Oh,
All right. Well,
anyway.
thanks so much.
Thank you.
And tune in next week for something fun and crazy. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you.
Bye.